Hello and welcome back to the Jet Press Podcast. My name is Justin Fried, and for the final time this season, I am joined by my good friend Mike Luciano. Mike, we just witnessed another Jets beatdown, another Jets blowout loss, the fifth consecutive loss by 23 points. They're the first team in NFL history to accomplish that feat.
And no picks. They did it.
Yeah, they're the first team in NFL history to also go an entire season. We just sat through an entire
They gave Quinnen Williams a perfect chance to break it.
Nope. They Quincy Williams. They give Quincy Williams.
Did I say Quinnen?
You say Quinnen.
That's how bad I'm daydreaming about better Jets players since we don't have any.
Quinnen Williams more interceptions than the Jets this season. He
also not in the playoffs. So.
Myles Garrett had 3 fewer sacks than the entire Jets roster, had more forced fumbles than their defense, and the same number of interceptions, which was 0. We're going to talk about that, but mostly we're going to talk about the big picture stuff as we have been doing with this Jets team. A lot went right in the draft position stuff today, Mike.
So yes.
How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
If this is the game to have any sort of opinion about Aaron Glenn or his coaching, get your head examined. Because I want you in chat, if you're really critical of him in this game, to look me in the eye and say, did you know who Jarius Monroe and Samuel Womack
were? Don't disrespect Jarius Monroe. You can say that about Womack. Monroe is...
I said there was a new rule that I made because I said, if you're ever criticizing a coach and you're saying because players are playing poorly and you can't name the player except for their number, it's not on the coach. If you're going, number 46 is terrible, and you can't tell me who number 46 is, I don't necessarily think that's a coaching thing. Probably half of the team that played today will never play in the NFL ever again.
Pretty much.
Half of the team. This was a tank job. They executed it to perfection.
Absolutely.
Now, if they lost, I know if they lost by 1 or lost by 40, it's a loss, but they ensured nothing will get in the way of them getting as high a pick as possible. And they have now ensured, after a 4-way tie for the worst record in the league, the Jets now have the number 2 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft, which ensures them a chance at either Dante Moore if he declares, or the best non-quarterback in the draft if Dante Moore does not declare.
I want to say this too. I don't think it's a lock for Nano Mendoza goes 1. It's January 4th. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the assumption right now, is that Mendoza would go 1, and I would bet that happens. Like, I think that's the clear, obvious favorite. But draft evaluations happen, or draft evaluations really haven't been finalized for these teams. And I think we'll probably have a better idea by the Senior Bowl, right? By like a month from now, if the Raiders are super high on Mendoza and they like him as QB1. But I don't know, man. Stuff could happen.
Or they could go BPA, and then the Jets get their pick.
Yeah.
Because that roster is just as bad as the Jets.
That especially could happen if Dante Moore does not declare.
So they also, the Jets now have the number 33 pick, the first pick of the second round because of schedule tiebreaker wackiness with the Raiders. So that's good too.
Yeah.
We'll talk a lot of big picture stuff because there was absolutely nothing to hold on to in this game. It was just complete foam packing peanuts. So
there's nothing to talk about.
Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and we're on YouTube. If you want to help the show, here's how you like. That helps. You subscribe. That really helps. You hype the video if you have the ability to on YouTube. That really helps. You join our membership. That really helps. That's how you can help us in 2026. Maybe if you guys, it's like I'm a mega church guy now. Like if you tithe and help the Jet Press out, eventually, cosmically, the Jets will start winning games. We haven't tried that yet. Maybe that's what we need to try.
That's a good point. You raised a great point, Mike.
So let's just talk big picture stuff because, look, this year has not been a good year. Aaron Glenn did not coach very well. I'm still very firmly in the camp that you have to bring him back, especially when he, Darren Muji, and Woody Johnson all basically agreed and said, we are bottoming out and playing Brady Cook, who is Tim Boyle bad. Like, he's on the bad quarterback Mount Rushmore.
I think he's worse.
He may be worse. You can make an argument he's worse.
Yeah, I think he might be worse than Tim Boyle.
The failed option play on 4th down.
The speed option that turned into a shovel pass, like that you're talking about that? The one I went out of bounds.
Do you remember that play where Mike Gundy's kid went in for Oklahoma State, the quarterback, and he's waiting for the snap and his hands are shaking?
Yes, of course.
Every single play with him. So,
I didn't know it was Mike Gundy's kid. I didn't know that.
I don't fault anybody for not winning with that. In fact, I'm surprised they were as competitive as they were, excuse me.
Well, let's not. They weren't in any.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, because for the last month, every single Jets player that is going to quote unquote be here next year is pretty much either checked out or are not playing 100% because they know the team is tanking. Brady Cook is not going to win these games. I'm not going all out here. The only guys giving max effort were the guys who aren't going to be here. So I always say when you're talking about coaching and player development, there's a hypothetical line. I'll call it the Tropic of Boyle, where if you're above that talent-wise, then I think sometimes it's fair. Like, it's fair to say, why is Jamie Sherwood so much worse this year? How come Justin Fields didn't improve the way that the coaching staff said he would? I think those are fair things to get on Aaron Glenn for. Why is the pass rush non-existent when these same players have been existent before? Those are fair things. But when the roster is depleted to this state, there are certain players, just talent-wise, they don't have the ability to execute what Aaron Glenn wants. I'm like Jordan Clark and Samuel Womack cannot execute Aaron Glenn's defense. Whatever.
Womack, by the way, I believe is currently PFF's highest graded Jets defensive player today. So
who is
Samuel Womack? Shout out Samuel Womack.
So they are not talented enough to execute the defensive vision. The offensive players are not. Khalil Herbert and Kenny Nwangwu as a running back are not talented enough to execute Tanner Engstrand's vision for a running game.
By the way, we see why Nwangwu doesn't play running back. As I expect, I hate to expect injury, but he hurt his hamstring again in this game.
Unbelievable.
Anytime
Woody Marks for the Texans, how he gets hurt every game.
Yeah.
So because of that, I can't find an enemy to have really any rancor. In fact, I'm pretty happy because look at what happened with the Jets tank-wise. So they started tanking, I don't want to say late in the year, but I mean, after that Falcons win, they said, all right, we're shutting it down. John Taffer shut it down. They now have the number 2 pick, the top pick of the second round. That's essentially a first-round pick.
And as somebody mentioned this in chat too, that's a prime trade down spot as well.
Yes, it is. And on top of that too, the Indianapolis Colts pick, which was 32 when they acquired it in the Sauce Gardner trade, currently is 15. And if the Ravens win, will stay at 15. It can go to as low as only 16.
Yeah.
So a bunch of things bounce very fortuitously for the Jets right now.
Yeah,
so,
and the Giants beating the Cowboys helps that Cowboys pick in the second round.
Yes. So you want your optimism? Here's your optimism. This is to treat this year like year 0. Treat this year like a cleanup year where you just had to flush all the mope and the bad players and the bad vibes and everything. As painful as it was, flush it down the toilet. As bad as 3-14 was. Now, if Glenn is bad next year, I have no problem with getting rid of it. No problem. But because I've always said you got to give him an opportunity. They really did not give him an opportunity. This year was a flush-out year. Now you have picks. You have cap space. You have the chance to genuinely handpick a quarterback swing at number 2 overall. You have the ability to do that now. The Jets, the Glenn and Muji tenure will be decided in March and April. And if they knock it out in March and April, I can feel confident with them going forward. If they don't, then they're in the graveyard of Jets failed coaches. That's why I'm at least optimistic, because it gives the Jets a very clear vision. You got to be aggressive, you got to nail it, or you're done. And I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to bring the negative vibes, right? But I can't say I share your optimism. If you want reasons to be optimistic, it's obviously the fact that the Jets have more draft capital and just overall ammunition, whether it's cap space or whatever, to improve their roster over the next 2 years, more than any other team in the NFL. So there's no reason why they can't provide a solid influx of talent to this roster. The issue is they also have so much farther to go than any other team, like more than the Raiders, more than any other team. The product that the Jets put on the field over the last 4 to 5 games of the season, which I'm aware was by design, I think you can make a very strong case was the worst product that the NFL has ever seen. Legitimately. They're the worst team.
I wouldn't say that. The worst Jets team, I think, is fair. I don't know the worst NFL team ever.
No team has ever lost 5 straight games by 23 points. The Jets just did that. They were as uncompetitive as you can imagine any NFL team being, and they did it 5 games in a row. 4 of those games were over by the first quarter. The only one that wasn't was the Saints. That took until the second half to be a blowout. That's about as bad as it gets. Like that you could make a case. That's the worst product that any NFL team has put on the field. Again, I'm aware it was by design. They are better than that How much better? I don't know. They're better than that. But it's hard for me to have a lot of optimism looking ahead to next year. When you bottom out like this, like the Jets did, and again, partially by design, partially intentional.
Everybody loves tank until you tank.
But when you bottom out as bad as you bottom out here, it's hard to bounce back. Like, it's hard to escape that pit of despair. They have enough draft capital that they can do it. If they hit on these picks and they make the right signings and they, more importantly, get the right quarterback in the room, you can. It's just hard for me to look at this coaching staff and say that they improved the roster in any way this year, that they put the Jets at any sort of advantage this season, obviously outside of special teams, which, Banjo did his thing. It's too early to say about Engstrand, but specifically when it comes to Glenn and this defense.
Engstrand, I may almost revise my grade to incomplete because, genuinely, man, he got – talk about getting nothing to work with. Like I've said before, it's like on that show Chopped where they have to make desserts out of, Skittles and a rack of lamb and, tripe, and you're like, well, what do I do with this? That was Engstrand for half the year.
The best way, Brian puts this well here. We'll get to a lot of these comments in a second. Brian said, coming off third worst season by record in franchise history, this regime will have no grace in the fan base, and they don't deserve it. If the Jets start out next year 1-6, there will be talks to fire Aaron Glenn midseason, and I have a feeling that that could happen.
And I wouldn't have a problem with it.
The product needs to be so much better next season that I think it's a really, really difficult challenge for this organization, even with all the ammunition that they have, all the draft capital, all the cap space they have, to get to a point where I feel and the fan base feels reasonably optimistic about the direction of the organization. Because right now it's tough. The optimism is, well, if this regime doesn't work out, if Glenn and Muji don't work out, you still have 3 picks in 2027. So if they still bottom out again next year and they're terrible, and maybe you go into 2027 and they still have those picks, I don't know what they do at quarterback. Obviously, if they invest in a quarterback this year, you better hope that's the right guy. That's a different discussion. But yeah, the optimistic outlook is they have all this capital, they have all this ammunition to improve the roster. It's just very difficult it's hard to see the vision, is how I would put it. It's hard to see a world, in my opinion, where the Jets are a good NFL team next year, or even like a respectable NFL team. Just because the bar is so low right now, they've set the bar so low that, man, there's just so much work to be done. They're going to have the offseason to prove they can do that work. Then they have they're armed with so much ammunition, right, to make it work. But man, there's just so much room. There's so far to go. They have so much work to do.
There is so far to go, but also there are moves you can make that just take so much. So much of it is going to depend on what happens at quarterback.
Of course.
Because I know there are a lot of fans that are pointing to Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel as to kind of what could have been instead of hiring Aaron Glenn. All 3 of those guys had top-tier quarterbacks installed.
Sure. But I will say this, though, Mike. Do you think the Jets are as bad as they are here? If Ben Johnson was the Jets head coach this year, do you think they win 3 games?
But I don't think they're 10-7.
No, that's not the point. But the point is they're better than Aaron Glenn. That's the point.
Well, I guess the point though is they have 3 games. They won 3 games this year,
basically because of special teams.
Well, they have 2 losses where if they didn't have bottom 100 quarterback play from Justin Fields, sure, they win that against 2 playoff teams.
And look, they probably beat Pittsburgh if not for Xavier Gibson. So I'll give you that.
They had a stretch for more than 2 months after the Dallas game. Every single game was either a very close loss against a good or a competitive loss against a good. Like New England, they were in that game in the 4th quarter. Baltimore, they were leading at halftime. Denver, Carolina, if they just didn't have the worst quarterback play ever, they probably win those games. Or they actually did win those games. Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Atlanta in there. And that to me, if you want to be optimistic, might be more indicative of kind of what Glenn wants this team to be. Because even when you're playing basically with both your legs tied, like a 3-legged race where you can't run and both your legs are tied together, that's what their offense was. And they were in games. The defense was respectable at that point before everything just completely caved and Steve Wilkes went out. They were still running the ball. They were in all these games in the 4th quarter. And then they just didn't have the horses at quarterback. And there you go. That, to me, that is what I want to see more of next year, just with better players around, where you get a better edge instead of Braden McGregor on the edge or Eric Watts on the edge. When you get a better linebacker instead of, I don't want to be here, Quincy Williams. When you get more wide receiver play. The problem is I feel like a lot of fans who are out on Glenn, and look, if you don't like Aaron Glenn, look, I'm more pro Glenn than a lot of people, but like you went 3-14, you should be criticized for that. Fair. But I think they're looking at 0-7 to start, which again, I think more 0-5 is how I view it. Because when he was getting blown out early, then I think he kind of made some adjustments.
I mean, they were 0-7. Like you also could point
yeah,
to
but
that.
they were up. But the point being, that was part of their, I think, turnaround where they looked better for a large portion of the year, and then the end of the year where they just gave up. I think
that Broncos game, yeah, you could say if they have a better quarterback, they win, and I agree with you. And maybe Garrett Wilson plays more football this year because Justin Fields literally got Garrett Wilson hurt in that game.
Yeah. So
if their head coach wasn't completely incompetent in that game, they also win. Aaron Glenn didn't know how long a Nick Folk field goal was supposed to be. They sat on the ball at halftime instead of even trying a play, right? Like that's head coaching competence, and he improved as the season went on from that stuff, I thought. But that's on the coaching staff as just as much as on the quarterback that game.
Well, I think what I saw was bad start, obviously. Well, the roster was good when they were 0-7. We thought it was better than it was. Doesn't matter what we thought. The reality was the team was terrible.
It was never good. Obviously.
Then up a little bit, ever so slightly, but there were improvements, and then we got a tank crater on purpose. So I think you can't just ignore the ups.
Yeah, the ups were largely due to special teams. So that's one. If the Falcons don't muff a punt, the Jets don't beat Atlanta. Which isn't it wild to think, by the way, that if Atlanta wins that game, they win the division and they're in the playoffs.
And the Jets have the number 1 pick.
And the Jets, then the Jets have because the Raiders ended up winning. What a wild, like that's the one game that you could point to where it's like, man, that changed the course of NFL history, probably. Like that's crazy.
Well, I was joking around after Joe Milton was playing. Like, think how much Joe Milton is altering the course of NFL history by deciding who wins Week 18 games.
Yep. Happens every time. What was the Texans, the famous Texans one?
Davis Mills. Oh no, that was they had the number 1 pick, and then they were going to take Bryce Young.
Yeah,
and then they dropped to 2 because they won, and then they got Stroud, who was better anyway. So some teams get lucky. The Jets never do.
Yeah,
what do you know?
Lucky. Yeah, look, my more so reason for pessimism outside of just I don't think this was a good coaching job throughout the season. I don't think the coaches.
No, in totality, I don't think it was
much of anything to be optimistic about. It's also just looking at the roster and saying, man, there's maybe like. Outside, because the offensive line, there's 3 guys in that offensive line I think are core building blocks in Membu, Fashanu, and Titman. By the way, I don't believe any of the 3 allowed a pressure today, according to PFF. So,
and that's with Brady Cook making it exponentially harder on them.
Once again, 3 great players there. You have Garrett Wilson. You might have Breece Hall. That's TBD. I'm going to assume you do. I'm going to assume Breece is back next year on a tag. I don't know if that means he's a long-term building block, but I think he's on the roster in 2026. And then other building blocks. I mean, who else? Probably Juwan Briggs, maybe Mason Taylor, maybe, Brandon Stevens or Azaria Thomas or Malachi Moore. Those are big maybes. I don't think those are definitely locked in. That's it. Those are the building blocks in this roster. There's just so much work to do. Like, yeah, you have all this, you have all these assets to spend or to use.
It can be done. That's the thing. I don't think it's too daunting.
It can't be done, but I'm saying you have to hit. Like, you have to hit on a lot of the assets. Like, you can't have misses like you did this year, where obviously, again, a lot of the misses were Derek Nottie, Tyler Johnson, right? Even Andre Sisco was a 1-year, $10 million contract. But the moves that the Jets make this offseason, both the big and medium and even small moves, they have to be noticeable. Like they have to hit, right? Because otherwise you're going to see a similar product that you did last year because they just don't have the horses on the team right now. They don't have the building blocks. They need to add those building blocks, and it's just less room for error when you don't have much to build on.
Getting the NFC North and the AFC West as a schedule too is just absolutely a freaking punch right in the nards for the Jets.
Right now, really quick, just vibe check. How many games do you think the Jets win next year? Just obviously, we don't know what they do at quarterback. We don't know what anything happens in there. If you were to guess, how many games do you think they win?
The 2 numbers I don't want to say back to back because the kids say them. Sure. One of those 2. 7 or 6.
And you know where my head's at? 4 or 5. That's where my head's at right now.
I'm gonna say probably 6. I think if I had to put one down.
If they go and sign, if they go and add another high profile wide receiver, they add a young quarterback who shows some promise, maybe and a stable veteran, and they add a few big time playmakers on defense, like you really improve that secondary, you get another linebacker,
pass rush,
another edge rusher, then yeah, I could see them winning like 7 games. But that's just so many ifs. Like there's so many positions you have to hit on for them to get to the point where I think they're a 7-win team. I don't think they're anywhere near that at this point.
Well, because here's my take on that would then be, I think the most obviously quarterback will decide everything. If they Zach Wilson it up again, it doesn't matter what we say.
Right. Well, if you say they draft Fernando Mendoza, right? Say they end up getting Mendoza, and he comes in and he looks like C.J. Stroud as a rookie, then obviously you're much more likely to win 6 games, 7 games, 8 games. But
and defensively, I do think so many of the issues stem from they just don't have a pass rush. I think that was the biggest problem on the defense. So I think if you commit an uncommon amount of attention to getting the quarterback you want, again, we're not going to know if he's going to hit immediately if he's a young guy, I get that. But if you get the quarterback you want and you sign a bit as big of an edge, or maybe you trade for a guy, you use one of the top 4 picks on an edge, you sign a nice depth piece, and then you retain Will McDonald and Jermaine.
Yeah.
That immediately, those 2 things immediately, I think, do a lot of the legwork. And if let's say they end up beefing it again and sign another Andre Sisco variant as a safety, or Sherwood doesn't improve from his regression this year. I think if you get those 2, at least at a baseline of forget, excelling, at least just competency, I think there's another win or 2 just right there, just with those 2.
They need an identity on defense, which they have none.
They had one on offense for a while.
They do have an identity on offense. I'm interested to see if that changes depending on what quarterback they bring in, because that identity this year was kind of built around Justin Fields being their quarterback. And obviously they wanted to run the ball, and it's built partially around the offensive line. And of course, it's also going to depend on if Breece Hall is back next year, because if Breece Hall is not back, not sure what's going on at running back. Hard
ETN season, I don't know.
Maybe. Hard to lean on the running game or say they're leaning on the running game if we don't know Breece Hall will be back. But they need an identity on defense, man. Like, they just need something. Like, the entire defensive staff will be overhauled. That's the other big part. It's like, man, you also got to hit on your hires, because that defensive coordinator, whoever you bring in, they have to be a substantial improvement. And whoever your assistant coaches that you're changing, like whether it's your quarterback coach or your linebackers coach or whoever, like they need to be hits too, because it's just I don't know, man. There's just so much work that needs to be done. It's hard for me to just sit here and be like, yeah, if they do all of these things, then they can win 7 or 8 games. It's just a lot of things that have to go right. Like, it can happen. It's possible. And if Muji is the guy and if Glenn is the guy, then maybe those things do happen. It's just, man, I don't have optimism or faith that they will happen. I know Aaron Glenn's saying, hold on to that rope. I let go weeks ago.
Well, but you're still in on bringing him back, though.
Yes. Well, so my 2 thoughts.
I thought you let go of the rope. Doesn't that contradict?
Well, it's more
like
of
if you're this against the vision,
Let me explain. So 2 things. 1, the Jets are bringing back Aaron Glenn, right? They're not going to fire him. So we'll get that out of the way. It is definitely going to happen. Every reporter has said that he'll be back. I don't even think it's a situation at this point where, if John Harbaugh comes available, right, where that's apparently a real possibility that the Ravens might fire him. I even think that the Jets would still bring back Glenn. That's what it sounds like, at least. That's number 1. Number 2, I don't think Aaron Glenn has done anything to deserve a second year, but I don't think it would be in the best interest of the organization to move on at this time. I think that the optics of bringing Glenn in, essentially tanking for half the year and then firing him after 1 season, after the results you got, which were terrible. And again, I don't think Glenn has done much or anything to deserve a second year. I think the optics of doing that, plus the fact that he's a franchise legend, right? And it was like, man, this is a major coup for us. I don't think you can fire him. Like, I think it would be so damaging to the organization to move on from him. Not to mention, again, the logistics of it. They're already paying Robert Saleh a lot of money still. They're paying Aaron Glenn, sounds like $10 million a year over the next 4 years. I don't think it's even like plausible to suggest firing him. I don't think they would even ever consider it just for the financials of it, let alone the optics of it. I'm not going to say that, you can't fire Glenn because who would you bring in? But I do think it partially plays a role of like, wow, you bring in Glenn, you're going to keep Muji then, right? You're probably going to keep Muji. I don't think you're firing a GM after 1 and done. So now you're in a situation where, again, your GM and head coach aren't going to be aligned. It just seems like a mess of a situation that it just makes more sense to run it back with Glenn next year, give him the offseason, be like, all right, man, look, you got all these assets. Reshape this roster in the vision, right? This is your vision. What can you do with all of these, all these assets? And
you're never going to have an ability to build a team in your vision like this.
Yeah, and again, you still have 2027. You still have the 3 first-round picks in 2027. So if Glenn is an abject failure next year, you can easily move on. And I think going into next season, Glenn's probably going to be at the top of lists where it's like, which head coach can get fired first this season? I think Glenn's going to be maybe at the top of those lists. And I think that's very reasonable. I don't think it's plausible or realistic or reasonable to fire him. But it doesn't mean I'm in on him. It doesn't mean I'm I haven't let go of the rope. I just don't think it makes sense to fire him. Or I don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's a feasible thing they can do.
Before we get to the comments, because we got so many and I really want to go lean into these comments, I have not seen one candidate suggested by Jets fans where I'd say, yes, I'd fire outside of the fairyland, pixies and rainbows, Mike Tomlin
Well,
thing.
I mean, look.
I've not seen one guy where I'm like, absolutely that guy.
If I could handpick other guys, if I could handpick other guys, I would much rather, I don't know, Mike McDaniel's not getting fired by Miami, but if you could put Mike McDaniel on the Jets, I would take that in a heartbeat. At least I know you.
The former Dolphins offensive coach who got fired?
Yeah, at least I know he's giving you a schematic advantage. Adam Gase was not doing that. Adam Gase is not Mike McDaniel. They're not the same.
The parallels are going to be.
Yeah, but they're not.
I literally think like that might be enough.
Well, look, the Jets are probably picking a quarterback second overall. Does that mean they're going to be Zach Wilson? Not necessarily. They might be.
Historically, yes.
Historically, maybe. I mean, well, again, if we're basing on history, then the Jets shouldn't do anything because everything they try fails.
I do hate that attitude, like, oh, the Jets messed this up, so never try it again. It's like,
there's a lot of candidates out there that like Clint Kubiak. He might suck, but I think there's a much higher ceiling with Clint Kubiak as your head coach than there is in Aaron Glenn.
I don't know if I do. I don't like Kubiak at all as a candidate.
I think he'd be a much higher upside pick. Like that's why I'd go for it. What is the upside with Glenn? Like if you're looking for the Glenn archetype in the NFL. Who are you looking at? Dan Campbell, obviously, is the first one that comes to mind. Mike Tomlin. That's basically it.
DeMeco Ryans in Houston?
I don't think so, because DeMeco Ryans has proven to be much more of a schematic defensive guy than Aaron Glenn is.
How much of that is just you hit on Stroud?
Aaron Glenn has not been able to produce yearly defenses nearly the same way that DeMeco Ryans has, even in Detroit. Like that's never been it. He's not a Robert Saleh. Like I don't want Aaron Glenn to be conflated with a Robert Saleh type where he's a defensive wizard where there's always a baseline of, give him 2 years, he'll get his system in there and you're going to have a great defense. Aaron Glenn has never proven that he can do that either with the Lions, as an assistant with the Saints or with the Jets to this point. So I don't think he gives you that, which DeMeco Ryans absolutely does. I don't think that's an archetype. I think the archetype of Glenn, he's the culture guy, right? He's not going to provide you this amazing schematic advantage. He's hopefully going to bring guys in and have this eye for talent, but also just maximize your roster. Like he will make sure that you are a baseline level of competent every single year. And boy, if that's his selling point, year one was as tough as it gets because they were not at all competent in really any facet outside of special teams.
Let's go to the comments now. We're going to start at the top and work our way down. Brandon R., we are a national embarrassment. The Jets will be the impetus for a draft lottery. Yeah. We got our draft order. Brady Cook was so bad. I literally think the teams might look in and be like, all right, like why were they playing him so much?
If the Jets got the number one overall pick, there'd be more combo about this. Like, because the Jets straight up tanked. Like,
they straight up tanked.
This was the most aggressive tank job I think an NFL team has done in years. Like,
yes,
it's wild. Like the roster they were putting out there. And
23 guys were out in this game. 23.
It didn't get as much attention because they're picking second, and they had no chance of getting the number one pick going into the final week. But it was very clear the Jets were doing everything they could to not win these games.
Aaron, Tom Brady hates the Jets so much he would take Mendoza just to spite us.
I don't know about that, but he does hate them. I think they probably take him. Would be my guess right now. But who's to say, Mike? What if Dante Moore wins the national championship this year with Oregon, and he looks awesome down the final stretch? It's so much there's still football to be played. There are still evaluations to be had. We're not close to being solidified at the top of this draft right now.
He could still go back. And I know there's reasons for him to go back. I'm running out of them because
NIL. It's literally just NIL.
Yeah, but also how many guys just in this class went back for another year and then just tanked their stuff? 4?
Look at Drew Aller.
Nussmeier, Sellers, Klubnik.
Yep.
And then you're gonna go what into the super mega death loaded class?
The reason would be like 3 things.
And I don't want to play for the Jets.
I don't even know how much of it is that. I really don't know how much that actually.
Yeah, I don't think people think that.
I don't think the Jets are a bad like as much as I just shit on the Jets. I actually don't think they're a terrible landing spot for a young quarterback.
The truth comes out.
Well, they're not. Those are not independent. They're independent thoughts that I have, but they have an offensive line and they have Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, and they likely are going to have Breece Hall running back. That's already I don't care.
And we kind of like Engstrom, so that's big too.
Yeah, that's already a better infrastructure than the Raiders are going to have. So I think the Jets are a better landing spot for the Raiders. But I think you would go back, obviously, one NIL, just the money getting thrown around in NIL these days. Dante Moore could go back and get $10 million in NIL deals from Oregon.
Or you can get $52 million guaranteed if the Jets take him at 2.
Number 2, if Oregon doesn't win a national championship, there's always the thought in your mind of, well, maybe he wants to go back and win a natty for Oregon, right? That's number 2.
Well, what good does that get you?
And then number 3, well, every player is different. Every person thinks differently, right? And then number 3 is he's 20 years old. This is his first year as a starter at Oregon. He has starts at UCLA, but that was a lifetime ago at this point for him.
And that was a massive.
It did not go well, and it did not go well. This is his first year as a starter at a high level football program, and he's producing. He's very inexperienced. I bet there's people in his ear, possibly his own thoughts, saying might be better to go back for another year and get some extra seasoning or whatever, right? Get more experience. Obviously, you could very easily make a counter argument against why he should declare. You don't want to pass him this life-changing money. Next year's quarterback class looks like it's going to be a lot more stacked. There's a lot of reasons against, for him to declare. But I don't think it's like a guarantee necessarily that he is in this draft. We don't know. We will find out soon, hopefully.
Maple Yankee, it's finally over. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Love the show.
Thanks for hanging in there, Maple.
Thanks for
it's tough, man.
It's tough, man.
It's tough, but look, it's also like it's fun to get on you. As much as we say it's tough to talk about this team, we're still talking about football. Yeah. And this is fun. This is our passion, bro.
This is how you should talk. You should not be letting be so miserable that it ruins your life when you're discussing the Jets.
Honestly, it's crazy because and football is still my passion, Mike. But I just haven't been able to talk about the Jets in a way that I feel so passionate about them because they've been so bad for so long.
Yeah,
it really
like what are you defending?
It kills my love of the sport in some ways. But then I watch other football and I'm like, man, this sport's pretty great still.
Wish I could suck for 3 years and then get number 3 and get another guy for 15 years. Wish that could happen.
I just want to see what the Jets, man. I just want to see what the Jets.
Now they're not going to win the division for as long as Alan May are in it. Ugh.
Yep.
Blue Sea Swimmer. If he didn't get an opportunity, as you're saying, how the hell do you expect him to win? This is exactly what you get. So it isn't on him. Saying again that Glenn was not given.
I didn't expect him to win any of these final 4 or 5 games. Like the expectation was not wins, right? Obviously, I'd like to see him be a bit more competitive, but I can't I can't be overly critical of the outcome of today's game because man, I'm aware as the Bills backups, and it is embarrassing just as a general statement. This isn't about who's to blame, right? It is embarrassing that the Bills played Mitch Trubisky and a bunch of backups, and it looked like again. I've used this comparison before. It looked like Ohio State versus UMass. That's what this looked like. And this was NFL.
You had a good tweet where you said the Bills are playing NFL backups and the Jets are playing Canadian Football League players.
They're not playing. They're playing guys off the street. These aren't even the Jets backups. These are the Jets backups to start the year. Were Michael Clemens, were Tony Adams ended up was a starter, but he was basically a backup.
Briggs was a backup.
Jeremy Rucker, these are the backups we're talking about. Samuel Womack was playing. Kedron Smith, Kingsley Jonathan. Those
his first name and last name are in the wrong areas.
Quentin Skinner, these were the guys on the field for the Jets today. That's not even backups, but
Kobe King.
It is embarrassing. Yeah, it is embarrassing that a team of backups with a backup quarterback and just a full-on backup roster was able to just trounce another NFL team in any way like this. I don't that's why I say, Mike, I really think you can make a case. This is the worst, these 5 weeks were the worst team I've ever seen take an NFL field. Especially these last 2 weeks. You'd be hard pressed to find a less talented team that took the field these last 2 weeks. I mean, Brady Cook at quarterback, Raheem Blackshear, Kene Nwangwu, and Khalil Herbert at running back. I mean, bro, what even is that?
This was but again, how many times in your Jets fandom have you said, "Oh, the Jets didn't tank"? You can't even tank correctly.
No, this was an effective tank.
Yeah, that's what you want. J-Mark, if Moore doesn't declare, would Ruben Bain be worth it, knowing that we would trade for Kyler probably?
So I don't know if they would definitely trade for Kyler. I think Kyler is going to have a lot of teams interested in him, especially if Dante Moore doesn't declare. I'm very curious to see what the Jets would do at quarterback if Moore doesn't declare. I think they would add someone in free agency or the trade market, right? They wouldn't just go into the draft without a guy. Whether that's someone as high profile as a Malik Willis, where you're probably spending similar to what you paid for Justin Fields, right? I think Willis might end up getting 20, 30 million guaranteed. And
Malik Willis has also thrown as a Packer 89 pass attempts.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's my preferred option. I'm just giving you other options. Or you could trade for a Mac Jones or a Jacoby Brissett, or you're signing a Marcus Mariota. They're not great options, right? But
especially in a year or two, you got to win.
And then I think they would draft somebody. I still think they would draft someone, but obviously you probably wouldn't draft someone at 2. 8 or 15 or 16 is going to start to be a conversation depending on who else is in his class. Ty Simpson could be in that range if he's in this draft. I don't know if he's going to be in the draft. He might not declare. Mike, let's have the conversation really quick because there's another quarterback who played very well this past weekend and is now on people's radars because they just watched him probably for the first time. What are your thoughts on Trinidad Chambliss? I'm not saying him as
oh my God, that would be.
I'm not saying Chambliss at 15 or 16, but
fans want him there.
Second round pick, Trinidad Chambliss. Like what would your obviously again? There's a lot of things to change. We don't even know if he's going to be in this draft. But what are your thoughts on him?
He would probably be my QB5 at this point, behind.
Okay, including Moore and Simpson.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's 4?
Mendoza, Moore, 1A, 1B, Simpson 3. I think Simpson's probably like a second round grade, but I think he'll go like, late first round, maybe the teens. I probably have my 4th would probably be, and this may not be popular, probably be Carson Beck.
Okay.
I think he's big. I think he throws with anticipation. I think he's got a lot of experience. I think he's accurate.
I think Beck's going to be an NFL quarterback. He's just still so bad under pressure that, I don't think he can be a starter. But I think he's going to be a backup in the league.
I think he's a day 2 guy because he's coming out this year.
There's more upside with Chambliss. You can't deny that, though.
Chambliss is generously 6'1", extremely generously 6'1".
He's Kyler sized. That's how I put it. He's Kyler sized.
He's Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, what got him picked was also his pedigree. Mm-hmm. A year ago, he was at Division II Ferris State.
Yep. Well aware.
I cannot jump from Ferris State to save Aaron Glenn. And he didn't even enter the year as the starter at Ole Miss.
He was
the backup. Austin Simmons got hurt.
It wouldn't be save Aaron Glenn. It would be, man, we couldn't get the quarterback we wanted, right, with Dante Moore or whatever, or Fernando Mendoza. And we added some guy that we're not expecting to be the long-term answer in free agency because there isn't going to be that option, right? Even if it's Kyler Murray, you're not expecting him necessarily to definitely be the long-term guy. So if you don't draft somebody in the first round, you're not expecting that guy to be the long-term guy. It would be your Tyler Shuck variant. It would be your mid-round or, day 2 stab at a quarterback, which usually doesn't work. Sometimes it does. Tyler Shuck's going to win Rookie of the Year. He looks pretty damn good right now.
He should not win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he is good.
He's gonna. Tyler Shuck, much like Trinidad Chambliss, I'm aware physically they're very different.
I'd give it to Dart, but that's
Shuck
just
was
me.
what, 25 when he was drafted? Played
26.
26, played 6 or 7 years, not to do that in college. Sorry, I did the 6 or 7 thing again. Chambliss is 23, I believe. I believe he'll be 23 in the draft. Like you said, was playing at Ferris State last season.
Real quick, we got a super chat from Patrick Cahill for $5. Good work this season, boys. Keep up the great work. Please also shout out my boy Brett, who is a fellow fan, a Pressy.
Pressy, interesting.
I like that. I like that, Patrick Cahill. All right, fellow Pressy over here.
I like Pressy more than Woody's is funnier for the joke. But if we were doing Pressy's for
we're not gonna.
I like that. Shout out.
I like that.
Shout out, Brett.
But as you were saying, Justin.
Yes, Trinidad Chambliss. Yeah, so played last year, obviously Ferris State. Went to Ole Miss this year. Was not supposed to be the starter. Austin Simmons was the starter. Then he gets hurt. Chambliss takes over and has an amazing season. Has played really, really well. If Trinidad Chambliss was 3 inches taller and maybe a year younger, he might be the first overall pick.
If I was 6'4" and ripped, I'd be,
I'm aware. What I'm saying is I'm trying not to diminish what he's accomplished this year because he's played awesome.
No, he's a pro prospect. Not for this Jets team.
There's a world where Chambliss is just not an NFL player, where his size limitations get the best of him and he's too small. And
the arm really isn't even all that, too.
No, it's not like a crazy arm either. But I think he's someone I would consider on day 2. I think he's a really, really fun player. And I like to bet on guys. I call it like the Jalen Hurts scouting, where I like to bet on guys who've just consistently gotten better every single year. And yes, Jalen Hurts has always been a physically limited player. And man, I watched Jalen Hurts at Alabama. No part of me thought he'd be an NFL quarterback ever.
None.
Nothing. I was like this. If he couldn't play Bama, right?
Transfers to Bama.
Right. Transfers to Oklahoma. Has an awesome year. Lincoln Riley works his wonders. Hurts becomes an NFL prospect. But even still, I was like, how much of a real NFL prospect is he? Look at him now, right? I don't think Hurts is this amazing, unbelievable. He's got no point, unfortunately, where he got overrated at a point in the NFL. But he's a starting caliber quarterback and a very good one at times. I'm not saying Trinidad Chambliss can be that, and Chambliss is smaller than Hurts, and they're not the same one-to-one comparison. But I like betting on guys who've just consistently gotten better. like that.
I need confirmation he's not as small as I think he is, and I need confirmation that his arm is stronger than I think.
I think
right now, it seems like a lot of. Before we move on, it seems like a lot of Johnny Manziel backyard freewheeling. Not personality wise, but play style wise.
Yeah. I'll say this: I think out of any quarterback in this class, he has the potential to rise the most. We always see late risers.
Yes,
every quarterback class. Mendoza and Moore, they're stamped at the top. Simpson is probably going to be, if he declares, he's kind of where he is, right? He's probably going to be not in the top 10 range, most likely, but high teens, low
QB3.
Yeah, I think Chambliss, if he I think there's a world where Chambliss rises to QB3. If he
I don't.
If he crushes it in the pre-draft process, measures pretty well, has amazing interviews with teams, and look, you're telling me if Ole Miss wins the national championship, which could happen, say Ole Miss goes to the Natty, plays against Indiana and Fernando Mendoza, and they beat them, and Chambliss plays amazing. I don't know, man. Or you get Oregon. Oregon's defense is even better.
I don't place any emphasis on winning a college championship in a pro evaluation.
If he plays amazing for 2 more games against really good defenses, dude, like that changes your evaluation. It's not about that he won, right? It's if he plays well on these final 2 games of the season, right? If they win and then they go to the national championship against 2 really good defenses, that does a lot for evaluation. And then if he crushes it in the pre-draft process, I see a world where he's 3. I'm not saying
who are they playing in the next game.
It's Oregon and Indiana, and then Ole Miss and oh my goodness, I'm completely blanking.
Miami.
Because I was like,
all right, Ruben Bain. All right, let's see.
Yeah. Miami's got a ton of defense, NFL talent in that defense.
Let's keep the chats going because we got a pardon my French, a shitload to get to. Lynx Black. The Jets should trade their 2nd pick to the Cardinals for their 3rd pick and a 3rd round pick. Draft Ruben Bain and Drew Aller in the 4th round.
So he's saying Cardinals trade up probably for Dante Moore is what he's trying to say there.
And then the Jets just do the whole BPA.
Well, yeah, I think if Dante Moore is in the class, the Jets probably end up drafting a quarterback, right? But there is a world. Again, I'm just trying to leave all the options open here because it's just too early for us to say stuff. I'll be more definitive about stuff by the time we get to April or March, right? When we have a better idea of how these teams feel about these quarterbacks. But yeah, there's a world where the Jets hate Dante Moore. There's a world where this Jets regime looks at Dante Moore and they say, you know what? We don't like him. We don't think he's a good NFL quarterback prospect. We think he's a 2nd round prospect. And if they do, they're not taking him at 2. I know that they're full pressured to, but they're not gonna. So yeah, if something like that happens and they can't get Mendoza because he goes 1, or maybe they don't like Mendoza either, yeah, maybe they could trade down. I'd probably go Reese over Bain right now, but
would you go Downs?
Not over Reese or Bain. I would take Reeves or Bain before.
I see so few situations where Caleb Downs is not good.
It's impact, man. Like Reeves or Bain, if they're good players, which they're going to be. Those are all.
Well, someone pointed out though too, not that Downs is going to, not to act like this guy's going to be the 2nd coming, but look at what Nicky Manwar is doing in Seattle.
I know.
Safety.
I know. Maybe you could argue that in today's NFL, safety is more valuable, right? But edge, if you get an edge, man, if you get a dominant edge, that trumps everything on defense. A dominant edge.
T-Rex arms don't scare you with Bain?
They make me hesitate to think that he's going to be this like perennial all-pro at the next level. But it's another Caleb Downs thing where I'm like, he's definitely going to be good. Like I can't see a world where Ruben Bain is not a good NFL player. I think he's Leonard Williams. That's what I think he's going to be.
I just feel like you're drafting for all pros when you're 2 or 3 though. So
I'll take Leonard Williams at 3. And the Jets did. And I would take that in a heartbeat. I would have no hesitation. Well, they took him at
5, 6, I think. Yeah.
6, yeah. But yeah, that's right. Because that was the Darnold. No, not Darnold.
No, that was
what year?
2016, I think, was Leonard Williams.
Yeah, 2016.
No, 2015. Because 2016 was the Darren Lee, Christian Hackenberg awesome draft.
Yes, that was Darren Lee.
Oh boy. I thought he was going to be really good, Darren Lee.
I would take Bain and I would take Reese, then Bain. Then maybe you're having a conversation about Downs, right? Maybe a wide receiver.
Okay, let me go. Something happened with the chat for some reason. Let me go fix that. There we go. J Mark. What if AG does the defensive calls? I don't know if I'd like that.
He could, but I don't think he wants to do that. I really don't think
so either.
He came to New York and he was like, I want to be the CEO. I want to be the head coach. I don't want to be the defensive coordinator. I want to have my hands on everything. So I would be surprised if he decided to do that. I don't think that's something he wants to do.
Kyle Becker. I think it comes down to who they get as defensive coordinator. The defense was the most clueless and disorganized I've ever seen.
Yeah, they need it.
And I put more of that on. You could he hired Wilkes, but like he really did give Steve Wilkes a lot of leeway and responsibility, and he just crashed and burned. So I put it on Wilkes.
I think he did to start the year, and then they were really bad. And I think Glenn kind of stepped in and that's why they were switching a lot, dude. Like they entered the year trying to be like, all right, we're going to be a press man team on defense. And then they couldn't do that. So they started playing a lot more zone, and the zone wasn't working. So they started introducing elements more man again. Like they were all over.
They were trying stuff. They were
trying everything. They were all over the place schematically. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct.
Part of it too is they had a team full of zone players, but a coaching staff who wanted to run man.
Yeah.
So they did this like weird mishmash hybrid of both that didn't work out.
Yep.
Let's go with Aaron again. Bart Scott and SNY was asking why everyone hates the Jets. Do you guys agree? I've mentioned this before.
I saw this conversation.
They are so pathetic and inept over the last couple of years. And yet teams that like, all right, if you're a Patriots fan or a Bills fan or whatever, like, yeah, dance on our graves. Like, I get it. That's fine. But like teams that aren't even like, there are fans from teams that aren't even close to the Jets that are like relishing in how bad they are. I just find it weird, especially because other teams, the Bills were bad for this long. Ooh, it's Buffalo Bill. You never heard any of that. They actually had a longer playoff drought for a while than the Jets' current one.
I think so. Badlands touched on this too, and they made they made the point about like it being kind of unearned cockiness that the Jets, even though there is dog shit and just
are they really? I don't even.
At times, yeah. I mean, you look at the Michael Clemens stuff with the Bills, like yeah, stuff like that, or Aaron Glenn, being like coaching, all that stuff, like kind of unearned cockiness and bravado. I think the fact that the people overlook too, and maybe this is just, I don't know, maybe this is too archaic to think. I think just them being a New York team, I think that makes them a target. Like the Cleveland Browns,
not the Giants,
were the sad saps. Well, because the Giants are not looked at as in the same way as the Jets.
Like they should be.
Well, they won 2 Super Bowls in recent memory. That's why they're not. That's the reason.
Last 10 years. That's a long time in football, 10 years.
Last 10 years, yes, but they're still looked at as, and maybe it's also, I think, because the Jets are so bad that the Giants just don't get looked in that. Like the Jets are a worse organization historically than the Giants, like not even close.
Oh yeah.
Not even close. And so the Jets are always going to be looked at as inferior. So whatever the Giants do, it's always going to be met with, well, at least they're not the Jets. I think being that New York team puts that target on their back of they can never be the lovable losers. They can never be the hapless, oh, we feel bad for them team like the Browns were, right? Or the Lions were.
The pre-Watson Browns.
Those are from like, the blue collar cities, right? Detroit and Cleveland, right? I think there's a bias against New York teams, right? And it comes with the territory, right? It comes with the territory. When New York teams are shitty, everyone dogpiles on them. I'm a Knicks fan, bro. The Knicks were terrible for years, and everyone loved to hate on them. Like the Knicks are like public enemy number one when they're bad. Even if they're terrible, people are like, oh, fuck this team, right? We hate this team. Feels like the same thing with the Jets.
I guess the thing though is like the Knicks I don't want to say they're like the Yankees, but like there's a marquee brand element to it.
Yeah, there is.
You would think then retroactively, since the Giants are kind of a historically gold star franchise in the NFL, you'd think them being bad would be funnier, but no.
Now,
like the Nets historically have been worse than the Knicks, like in terms of just incompetence level. I know that the Knicks are 100 times bigger brand wise than that. I understand that, but like in terms of just like messing things up, like they're worse and funnier.
Yeah, I think the Nets are just so incompetent. They're not incompetent, so irrelevant that they just don't even equate in the conversation. Like whereas like no disrespect to Nets fans. I got nothing against the Nets. They're
the argument I hate those are like, oh, they should move back to Jersey. I'm like, no, you ever go to a Nets game in New Jersey? No one was there. But exactly, that's why they left, because no one was there.
I really think that the Giants just get so much of a pass because the Jets exist. Like if the Giants were the only New York team, they'd be the laughingstock. At least the last 10 years, they would be. They'd be like, look at this New York team that is just
wow. Raheem Morris got fired.
Future Jets DC.
That surprises me.
I think he'll be. Yeah, it does surprise me again because if they just beat the Jets, they make the playoffs, which is crazy to say. I mean, it looked like it was trending that way for a while, and then the Falcons won a bunch of games down the stretch. I guess because it was with Kirk Cousins, they were less willing to give him leeway. But I do think Morris is going to be. I think the Jets will interview Raheem Morris for a DC job. And that's a hire I'd like. It would feel very Steve Wilkes.
It's tough to be like, oh, this defensive back coach is going to be a great defensive play caller. Like, it's hard to project that.
It would feel Wilkes-esque, but at least I know Raheem Morris has led a really good NFL defense in relatively recent.
A Super Bowl winning defense recently.
Correct. Like he was.
Then again, Steve Wilkes almost led a Super Bowl winning defense recently. So
he did, but that was a different situation where Niners fans didn't like the defense wasn't necessarily great. The Rams defense was really good. Morris got a lot of praise for that.
Brandon R. I hope we address quarterback and free agency and draft Bane at 2. Not Ruben Bane, Bane like Batman Bane.
Oh, I was thinking Desmond Bane.
When he gets venom in him, he's like 9 feet tall and 600 pounds. So that'd be a great edge rusher.
Jets fans better start watching Arvell Reese. That's what I'm going to say. I'm taking Arvell Reese every day of the week over Ruben Bane.
That is one thing, though. I think Arvell Reese kind of has a little bit of, obviously, the Micah Parsons is the archetype for that kind of like hybrid thing.
It's less.
You need to go to the right team for that.
It's less defined what to do with him, but I don't care, man. You draft him and you figure it out. Like if he hits, he's an all-pro.
He seems like Jalen Walker last year very much.
He's better.
I know, but I mean like a better version of Jalen. Like, you were high on him for a while.
Yeah, he's a better Jalen Walker. Like he is. Man, I bet a lot of people are going to have him as close to Micah Parsons as a prospect. Like, I think people are going to have them very similarly graded. And they're very similar players. Like, but Bane, I think is such a high floor player that I know he's going to be really good. But I don't know if he's going to be this game changer, game wrecker every single, week. I think Reese has the potential to change a defense. I don't know if Bane does. So I like Bane. And I wouldn't be, I think I would take Bane as a top 5 guy, right? Reese, first year over Bane.
Links black again. Quarterback room: Willis, Mariota, and Drew Aller.
I wouldn't hate it. Like if Moore doesn't declare,
you excited about that, Justin?
No, I'm not. But if Moore doesn't declare, how much better are you doing than that? Realistically, like what else are you doing?
This is just me. I'd go for Kyler. I know it's tough to pull off, but I'd go for it.
The Willis one is just such a wild card where it's like, wow, there's a world where it works.
It just feels like Fields again. Kyler is so much more of a known quantity.
It would feel similar to Fields. I agree, and there'd be comparisons there,
and there'd be even less to bank on.
In a weird way, it's less like you have less tape of. With Fields, there was just a lot of evidence that he was bad, and you were hoping that he just was going to be a little bit better. Like you were hoping that, maybe we can work on some of this stuff and harness this ability that he had in Chicago, and just kind of build off of what he did with Pittsburgh. With Willis, it's more of a completely unproven commodity. Where how many starts did he have in the NFL? 4? Malik Willis, roughly.
You willing to hold that guess? Because I'm gonna check.
I think it's 4 or 5. He's had 4 or 5 starts in the NFL.
6. Although 3 of them came with the Titans, which he was unplayable.
Right. And so you have just a lot less evidence that he's bad, but also a lot less to work with. So it's even more of just a completely unproven commodity of like we don't know what we're getting. It'd be fun. Look, if the Jets went into the summer with Malik Willis, their quarterback, I'd be talking myself into him. I'd be like, hey, there's a world where this works. We did that with Fields, though. And
let's go with MTO. Excuse me. Does the Jets go after Dan Lanning of Oregon to tag with more? Excuse me again. Geez, sorry about that. Or does Lanning want 0 part of the Jets?
I don't know. Is Lanning going to the NFL? Has that been a conversation at all?
I think a lot of people always want to take the best college coach. And since Marcus Freeman went back, Lanning seems like the guy that would make the most sense as a pro hire, but I think he'd like staying in college.
Is he saying as the Jets defensive coordinator or Jets head coach? Because they're not
head coach.
Oh, they're not firing Glenn. Like they're just not firing.
Well, I'm saying even if they get more and then they fire Glenn, then would they consider?
The last time that the Jets brought in a coach because they wanted to woo a quarterback, it didn't work, and I really would rather them not do it again. Let's just do it. Let's just do it the normal way,
Let's go with somebody wants Deion Sanders as head coach there. That would be.
Well, they can trade for Shador, Mike. They can bring
Brian Glick. We started practice squad level players for the second half of the season. This is what happens when you quote get the young players playing time.
I mean, Brady Cook was the ultimate tank commander. I salute to Brady Cook. I mean, what a performance he's had over these last 4 or 5 games. Like that is as good of a tank job as you're going to get from a quarterback. So shout out Tank Commander Cook. He did his part.
MTO, I know Joe Benigno wants Diego Pavia in round 2. 2? Not 12, 2?
I love when I hear an opinion and I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously he said that. Like, of course.
If he gets drafted, he should feel lucky, Pavia.
Joe Benigno is
Look, I've seen people I know that like guys lie about their height. Diego Pavia is 5'8" or 5'9".
Yeah, no.
Diego Pavia is my height.
He's not an NFL prospect. He's not.
I think he'll get. I wouldn't hate if somebody
drafted.
just said like end of the 7th round flyer. I'm like, yeah, why not?
I think he gets drafted because he's an awesome competitor. Like there are teams that just want a guy like that in their locker room, and they're like, you know what? Maybe he plays up back for us, right? Maybe he's on kick coverage, right?
Whoa! Pavia reminds me of an undersized Jay Cutler.
Oh, no.
Jay Cutler was like 6'4" and could throw the ball 70 yards.
Trinidad Chambliss is basically
Jay Cutler had a cannon.
Trinidad Chambliss is basically an undersized Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord.
No, I think Pavia is going to be drafted because, again, there's just you want guys like that in your locker room. I get it, right? The competitive nature of it, and you just draft him and say he's a football player, and we'll figure it out. But you're not using anything other than a 6th or a 7th round pick.
Brady Cook, a lot of people said that about him.
I did the 6-7 thing again. The Falcons are firing Terry Fontenot as well, which that's not a shock.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
So if you're firing Morris, you're going to fire Fontenot. That's not shocking to me. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. He was how many years he took over for what's his name? The guy who was with the
Thomas Dimitroff, who the Jets almost hired.
Yes. He took over Dimitroff. So what? He's been there last 5 years? Something like that, 4 or 5 years?
Man, Nick Folk got Raheem Morris fired because they're not firing him if they win the division.
Nick Folk got Raheem Morris, yeah. Well, and that punt returner, whoever that Falcons punt returner was.
Oh, poor guy.
I don't even know who it was.
I don't like that move for the Falcons. I feel like they showed some life earlier in the
if
later.
You're firing Morris, you got to fire Fontenot. That would be my take.
I know, but I wouldn't have done either. Like,
I get it. I'm not like.
I wonder what happens with Penix. Like, do they just clear it out and go like new guy or what?
Well, unfortunately, they don't have a 1st round pick, so I think they got to.
Oh yeah.
I think they got to stick with Penix. If they had a pick, maybe. But what?
I don't think Penix has been bad when he's played.
No, I think they probably either keep Kirk or they bring in someone else who's a veteran, right, to pair with him. But I think Penix is the week 1 starter.
Slow runner. Jets need to trade down for more picks. They can't sign Kyler Murray. They got to trade for him and get a developmental quarterback like Drew. A lot of fans love Allah for some reason.
I get it as a dart throw. Like I wouldn't be upset about Allah.
Well, then why him specifically?
If they take Allah in the 4th, I'm not mad. Right, like that's whatever. I don't mind just throwing a bunch of assets at the quarterback positioning and saying hopefully one of these hits. I don't have with the current position the Jets are in. I don't mind that at all. I get it too with Aller. Like it's he has the hype, right? He was supposed to be potentially the 1st overall pick. If he came out last year, Mike, he had a chance to go 1. Like there's a world where Drew Aller declares last year and he's the 1st overall pick.
You hear that, Dante Moore?
Right, but then obviously goes back to school, plays shitty. Tears the ACL or whatever. What was
the worst? The worst possible thing.
Was it an ACL? Is that what he had?
ACL, yeah.
Yeah.
Jets MTO. Jets go Keldrick Falk at 15 and Dante Moore at 2. I would love that.
Yeah, I
absolutely would love that.
15. That's good value. I have no.
I think Falk might go there.
Falk feels like the type of DN that they want to. Like he's a bigger guy.
Yeah.
I would like that. Absolutely. That's a good one too, for sure.
Let's go slow runner. Jets need a DC like Wink Martindale.
The Wink stuff.
Turn over the entire.
So Connor
Hughes love angry yelling guys, except for Aaron Glenn, who's a yelling guy.
Connor Hughes brought him up. I think just the idea of if you're in a vacuum, Wink Martindale's a very good defensive coordinator.
They're not getting a fight, him and Aaron Glenn.
I know. Hold on. In a vacuum, Wink Martindale's a really good defensive coordinator, and I think like you're not having defensive performances like you did this year if you bring in Martindale. There's no way. Unfortunately. Boy, it feels like a recipe for disaster.
You thought they couldn't get home with blitzes this year. Maybe if we blitz even more.
They'd find a way. Martindale doesn't coach bad defenses. He does not coach bad defenses. He worked wonders with that Giants defense. He was awesome.
Is he currently attached?
I think he's in college somewhere, right?
Not the former game show host, which is why he's called Wink Martindale.
Right, Don Martindale. Is he in Michigan?
He's
in college somewhere.
He was fired. Oh, when Sharon Moore got fired, Martindale said he's not.
Well, what's funny is the last 3. So that means his last 3 jobs, he hasn't been fired. He's left like he's parted ways because he parted ways mutually with the Ravens because him and Harbaugh hated each other, and he parted ways mutually with the Giants because him and Daboll hated each other. And now he's left Michigan because their head coach went AWOL and went nuts.
I'm just doing something really quick on Morris, getting rid of that. Okay, slow runner.
Yeah.
Jets should draft David Bailey with their 2nd pick, trade down, and get Caleb Downs and Sonny
Bailey,
Stein.
I think, makes less sense than a Falk. I think Bailey is more in the lines of like a Will McDonald type, and I don't think that's what they're looking for.
I will say, though, like...
He's great. He's awesome.
In terms of just like a sack guy, though.
I know, but man, I don't want just sack guys. I don't want...
They need sack guys.
They do.
I want 2 big sack guys Right on it.
Hey, whoa.
Give me these two sack guys I can hold.
What happens when the
and
Jets
say the Jets have them.
This is Jet Press After Dark. This is what happens when the Jets play 4 o'clock.
Oh, good Lord.
It's 8:45 and Mike's.
You know what? Well, when they start winning more, we'll do clean shows. Until then, you play like crap, you get profanity laden.
Let me rephrase my daily David Bailey take. I think I would like David Bailey if the Jets traded Will McDonald. Then I think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to have 2 defensive ends on a roster where I'm like, man, they're going to be tough on running downs. Like, they're going to be tough on early downs. I think Bailey's probably a better run defender than McDonald, but it's not saying much. Also, how is he 240, David Bailey? How big is he?
I think he's listed at that, but I think he added weight coming into this year.
He's listed at 6'3", 250. I don't believe that, but we'll see what he measures in at the combine.
What do you think of Cassius Howell?
He's also so small, but it's a similar thing. Like, I think Bailey's probably a better prospect than Howell. Maybe that's recency bias because Bailey just dominated in that.
Bailey's been above that. But I'm like, yeah. I think if they need to add obviously 2 defensive ends.
Yeah,
I think they need one. They need one more Jermaine-ish guy and one more McDonald-ish.
I agree.
Guy.
And they're going to add one probably in free agency. Like I would expect them to spend on that position in free agency, whether that's a Kwity Paye or an Odafe Owe or Caleb Chasen, like somebody. They're going to add Al-Qadim Muhammad. So like if they add an Al-Qadim Muhammad type, then maybe you go to a David Bailey. If they add a Caleb Chasen, then maybe you go to a Matayo Oyunglele, right? A bigger defensive end. Like I think they probably add one of both, one in free agency, one in the draft. But I also think they're going to field offers. Like I think they're going to put feelers out there for McDonald and Jermaine. I don't think it's a lock. Both of those guys are on the roster next year. I think they might look at this defensive line and look at this defensive end room and say, man, these guys they don't fit what we want to do. And they make some trades, which, man, if they had a second on the table for Jermaine and they passed that up only to trade him for like a 5th in the offseason, I'm not going to be happy.
Let's also go back in time. Remember when he had that whole, like, I'm committed to the Jets, I want to be a thing?
I know.
Like, we've always said, what's been the theme this year? Get rid of the mope, get rid of the mope. He is not a moper, but...
It feels like he started moping in recent weeks. I'll say that. But also, it's hard to...
Also, yeah, they're losing on purpose, so...
Yeah.
Slow runner, Raheem Morris, Jets should hire him as the DC.
I think he'll be in the conversation. I think he'll get interviews or get an interview. I do. I think Glenn and him are pretty close too, from what I know.
Yep.
But I do think they're going to get. I think he's going to bring him in for an interview as long as Morris is open to it. Because I don't think Morris is getting head coach interviews. I'll say that. So I think DC is probably the best he can do.
I don't think he was bad with the Falcons, really.
Part of me, unless you're getting like a Wink Martindale, where I'm like, I know this guy's definitely going to coach a good defense. Part of me wants to go a younger guy. Like, I maybe it's Steve Wilkes recency bias where I'm just like scarred from the Wilkes hire. And I'm like, man, I thought this would work out. And then we just kind of ignored some red flags. I'm a little concerned about Morris for that reason, but the optimistic spin would be, yeah, he just coached a really good defense with the Rams. And also the Falcons were really good. Like the Falcons are not a bad defensive team at all. Like
MTO with a good point though. Is it first off, Ulbrich might go back to probably Washington, he said now, because Ulbrich's probably not going to be back in Atlanta.
True. That was he with Washington? I didn't even know that before.
Well, he's looking at teams that need a DC, and Ulbrich.
He was in Atlanta for a while.
And then he also says Raheem Morris will go to the Rams if Chris Shula gets a head coaching gig. That's a good point.
Shula is going to be he's going to be a very interesting candidate. You think Shula gets hired this cycle? He's going to get interviews.
No.
Yeah, because
I feel like if his name was Chris Glenn, I don't think he gets hired. I think I think that name is helping him.
Because you got to think how many teams are going to hire a defensive head coach, right? I think Hafley probably gets a job, so that's one. Minter is probably going to get a job over him as well, so that's 2. Does a third team hire a defensive head coach? I don't know.
Dion080. We give so much shit to Glenn, which is deserved, but the rotten core problem will be the Woody Johnson problem. Okay, here's my problem with that statement. Woody Johnson is an awful, terrible owner who stinks.
What do you do
all the time? But like, he's not the reason that like Quincy Williams dropped an interception today. And he's also convenient. It's convenient because he sucks, so you can always just blame him. Like some things aren't Woody Johnson's fault with the Jets, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, he hired the head coach that I think a lot of fans would have hired. Right. He hired not that the fans don't really know about the GM, but he hired a seemingly qualified GM candidate. They brought in a quarterback that fans wanted. They've made the Aaron Rodgers move, which fans wanted. Right. Like Robert Saleh was another.
He's trying.
Wanted. Like, I'm not to defend Woody Johnson because his issues aren't necessarily the decisions he makes. It's more so the meddling and stuff like that. But also, again, what do you do? Like, what can they do? Like, they can't fire Woody Johnson, right? So
Yep.
they're stuck with him.
He's not doing anything illegal where they got to like Donald Sterling him. So
well, there was some stuff about his name was mentioned in some.
I mean, yeah, okay, well, okay.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that.
So let's veer back on track here, and let's go to Dion again. We will so F up Dante Moore if Glenn is here. As we've said on past shows, if one season of Aaron Glenn screws up Dante Moore, he was going to suck no matter what. Yeah. Gerard Mayo didn't screw up Drake May.
Really quick, Brian said, I think Shula could get hired by the Bucs if they move on from Bowles tomorrow. It sounds like Bowles is safe. Every report was like Todd Bowles is not getting fired, which is a little crazy to me. Like, look, I love Todd Bowles, right? Love me some Todd Bowles, but man, the collapse that the Bucs had this season, that is wild to me that they're not even considering moving on from Bowles. Which, if you ask, I mean, every year I feel like Bucs fans are like, yeah, we got to fire Todd Bowles. Even when they're good, even when they've made the playoffs repeatedly. Like, it's like,
I will say though,
bring us back
with what Cohen's doing in Jacksonville, they may have been right last year.
What about not
like they wanted to fire him and promote Cohen?
Oh yeah.
They might have been.
I just think Bowles is another situation where there's a ceiling on you. He's a very like there's a ceiling on him as a coach. I don't think you're winning a Super Bowl with Todd Bowles is your head coach unless you have a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes at quarterback and you have a great offensive coordinator. Like then maybe, but.
Wow, apparently Bijan Robinson and Drake London told ownership that they did not want Raheem Morris fired.
Whoa, who said that?
Drake London and Bijan Robinson wanted Raheem Morris back again, and they fired him anyway.
Oh, the blanks. Oh,
well, he's a good owner, though.
Oh, he is, but that's interesting.
Generally, yeah. MTO Olbrich. Okay, let's go with Dion again.
Sure.
Jets are taking a quarterback 100%. Let's be honest. The 15th pick is open, but not number 2.
Dante Moore's not there, and Fernando Mendoza's not there. Then I don't think so.
What if Brian Sternbeck? What if Tannenbaum told the Jets to hire the worst candidates he could sell them on to make his own tenure with the Jets look better? I mean, Mootie's doing okay.
That's a crazy conspiracy theory. That's a wild conspiracy theory. I mean, you never know. Spielman, I guess
the owner's son was also doing trades with Madden ratings, and if we said if that didn't happen, and we said that was happening, we'd sound crazy. Sure. So
Spielman would have to be in on that too, but who knows what Spielman's even doing right now? So possibly.
Brian Sternbeck, another reason why Woody won't fire Glenn and Muji is because doing so would admit everything the 33rd team did last year was a waste of time and money.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't doubt if that's part of it, but I think the money thing for sure, but also the money thing in the sense that you're already paying Robert Saleh, you're going to be paying Aaron Glenn $10 million for the next 4 years. Does Woody want to pay another head coach right now? I don't know about that. I think Saleh probably had 1 more year left on his deal, maybe. So I think after 2026, they're done paying Saleh because he wasn't a lame duck coach next year. So I think he was signed through 2026. So once 2026, then yeah, they would only be paying Glenn.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dion. I got to put you on blast here. I hope a quarterback doesn't save his job. I want him gone. So you would rather they lose next year than win with Aaron Glenn? Is that what you're saying? Because if the quarterback saves his job, you would think that they'd be winning.
Yeah, I think.
Come on, dude.
I think what he's saying is that he doesn't want Glenn to get his job, like Glenn to do a bad job, but he gets saved because the quarterback is good. But Glenn is still a bad head coach. I think that's what he's trying to say.
But I don't think I think if Glenn's bad next year, they're going to fire him. So
I agree. Unless, relax.
I don't know what. I don't know why it flipped up in the air. It must have just banged it a certain way. Yeah.
That was Cirque du Soleil shit. But yeah, I think if the Jets are bad next year, even I guess. I see what you're saying. Like I think there's a world where if the Jets win 7 games and maybe the defense sucks, but the quarterback looks good, maybe that saves Glenn's job. But I don't know. There's a lot of factors that go into it, right? It's too hard for us to say right now.
Woody's the only reason we haven't made the playoffs for as long as we have. He's not the reason.
It's easy to obviously just say that, and
he's a reason. He's not the reason.
He's definitely a part of it. Like there's a lot of stuff that he's done where it's just. You know what it is? I think Woody is he's the death knell for regimes. That's kind of what he is. It's like, yeah, the Joe Douglas regime was probably going to fail, and the Robert Saleh, like that era was kind of already failing, and then Woody just made sure it definitely did. I feel like he's done that a lot in the past, like even with the Tebow meddling and shit like that. You can go all the way back to that. Like there's a lot of stuff that he's done where it's like, well, the team wasn't in good shape before he started doing this, and now he made sure it's definitely not going to work.
So let's go with Brandon R again. As he got a couple at the buzzer shots here. Glenn has a ceiling as a coach as a rah-rah guy. If he loses effective coaches to free agency, the team will tank again. Well, honestly, that's a problem we'll cross when we come to it. Because if the Jets are worried about getting their coordinators poached, that's a spot they haven't been in 15 years.
Oh yeah, that's what Brandon's saying. That yeah, if they're worried about that, then yeah,
let's win games and then we'll worry about losing our Liam Cohen.
Yeah, and as Brian said here, I don't think Woody has the stomach to eat roughly $45 million on Glenn and his staff, in addition to what he'd have to pay replacements. I agree.
And a pick from who's the number one? Last year it was Ben Johnson. Who's the top candidate this year?
I don't know if there is a definitive one.
I think we're reaching a ceiling with the offensive guy here, because so many of the offensive genius head coaches that get hired, they call their own plays. So then you don't just hire their OC because they don't call plays. That's why Adam Stenovich in Green Bay has not been a head coach before. So you have to go find the best OC from a good who calls his own plays, which honestly there aren't that many, because McVay and Shanahan and LaFleur and Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, they're all calling their own plays.
I think the two names aren't going to be. It's not going to be like a Ben Johnson or Liam Cohen hire. It's going to be Kevin Stefanski. If the Browns fire him, which it sounds like they're going to.
3 wins, bad. 7 wins in 2 years, good.
Stefanski's going to get a head coach job if he wants one. I don't know. He might not want one this year. Stefanski's a 2-time head coach of the year, like a very good offensive mind. You want to talk about what is he working with, right? Not exactly working with much.
No, I'm with you on that, but I will say, like, you can't say, well, I don't care what Aaron Glenn's working with. You got to be more competitive than this. And then use the look at what he's working with excuse with Stefanski. You got to use him for both.
It's not all black and white. It's nuance, right? There's nuance.
Is that intentional?
What?
Glenn Stefanski?
Oh, no. No, it wasn't intentional. No, it's all nuance. It's shades of gray with these conversations. But I think Stefanski will be near the top of that. Will probably be the top of that list, unless one of Harbaugh or Tomlin is not only fired or gone from their respective locations, and they want to coach next year. Because I think if Tomlin is fired or just decides to leave, I don't know if he coaches next year. I think Harbaugh might. Harbaugh feels like a football junkie to me, where it's like, man, if he's fired, I can't see John Harbaugh doing TV as much as I can Tomlin.
Tomlin might be like a Bill Cowher again with the Steelers thing, where he I think he'd be a great broadcaster.
Oh, I agree. I think he'd be awesome at it. But I think if Harbaugh's fired, or they mutually part ways, whatever they'd call it, right? If the Ravens lose tonight, then, which by the way, that game's on right now, right? What's the score?
7-0 Ravens.
Okay. Jets fans should be rooting for the Ravens, by the way, in that, because the Colts pick can fall one spot further if the Ravens win. If the Ravens win, the Colts pick 15th, which is ridiculous considering when the Jets made that trade, that pick was at 32. Like the Colts were
now it's at 15.
The best record in the NFL. That pick could fall all the way to 15. But yeah, I think Harbaugh and Stefanski are probably the guys at the top of that list if they're fired, and it sounds like Stefanski will be fired. As far as first-time head coaches go, I don't know, man. My alarm, sorry.
Oh, boy. Dion, the real value of this team currently is we have assets that are very desirable. We need an offensive coach who gets option. The thing, though, is any coach is going to want stability. They fired Aaron Glenn after a year. Why wouldn't he fire me? Because I'm not going to be probably good the first year either. One question I've always wondered, and maybe Justin, I want your opinion on this.
Sure.
A lot of Jets fans want Aaron Glenn fired after this year. Why? I do not remember. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Salah's first year was like this bad, and we didn't hear any of that.
It wasn't this, like they showed more signs of life down the stretch. Now, they didn't as aggressively tank as they did here. And with the Salah situation, you also had it was 2021. So we got a young quarterback where I think Zach took a lot of the heat for that year. Whereas this year it's like, well, man.
But Glenn's taking heat for Fields.
Yes. What I'm saying is Zach was more of a lightning rod for the negativity more so than Robert Saleh was. Whereas now there's no like Fields. You could blame Fields for it, but he's not going to be here next year, right? Whereas with Saleh, it was like, well, Zach's going to be back the next year. He needs to be a lot better. Like the conversation was more about how Zach needs to be better than Saleh. Whereas this year there is no quarterback to say that about. It's just the coaching has to be better, Aaron Glenn. But I also do think the product on the field was just worse. Like it bottomed out worse than 2021 did.
I think points per game. There was a tweet I sent you. Points per game scored and allowed this year and that year were identical.
Right. Well, again, the Jets defense had games this year was all right. I'm talking about it bottomed out. Like these last 5 games, and that's a product of them directly tanking.
Yeah.
But it bottomed out worse in 2021. So I think that's partially why the conversation is different, and then partially as well because of the Zach Wilson factor, where you had the young quarterback to talk about. And the offseason discussion was, how can we surround him with better talent, and how can we make sure he's better, as opposed to Aaron Glenn, where there is no conversation about that quarterback right now. It's, wow, can we trust Glenn with a quarterback? Can we trust Glenn with all these assets? Because the Jets also have significant assets where they didn't have that necessarily going into 2022. Not to this extent.
Well, didn't they have the picks from the Jamal Adams trade?
Ooh, 2022 they did. You're right. Never mind. I'm wrong about that. But they did have the assets. But I still think the Wilson conversation was made it a little bit different.
MTO again. I know Jets fans want Josh McCown. Josh McCown is not doing a good job right now.
He's a Hail Mary consideration. So it's like Hail Mary. Yeah, if you want to just like take a on him, but
he's a quarterback coach, and he's been worse this year than Charles London, who no one likes. Because 9 looks terrible. And that's Josh McCown.
I mean, how could he? I don't know if any quarterback coach has been like, just in terms of the product on the field, worse than Charles London. That's not saying it's Charles London's fault, but like, what teams had a worse quarterback?
All right, he's in the same tier.
Yeah, the Jets have the worst quarterback room.
In the same tier. Brandon R., I feel like the players like Saleh more than Glenn. I feel like the players like Glenn. I think they do.
I know that the players quit down the stretch. How much of that is the product of the coaching staff, and how much of it is a result of just tanking, like intentionally trying to lose? I don't know, but they definitely quit. It feels like the players quit more on Glenn this year than they did with Saleh in 2021. But again, I do think the Jets more aggressively tanked, so that could play. That's a big part of it.
Oh, I didn't even remember too. Saleh won 4 games. One of them was coached by Ron Middleton.
That's right.
Saleh won 3 games.
That was COVID.
Yeah, and they beat that. And I believe it was against the Urban Meyer Jaguars. So should that even count?
That was a revenge game. Ron Middleton, former tight ends coach for the Jets.
Wait a minute. Aaron Glenn beat Kevin Stefanski this year.
Yeah, he did.
So I mean,
the Jets beat the Browns. Does that mean that Aaron Glenn is better? That you can't.
Again, I think there's a path to success with if they got Stefanski instead of Glenn. But like,
Zach Wilson beat Josh Allen. What does that mean?
This fan base is going to be twerking for a coach who won 7 games in 2 years, and I'm not gonna stand for that.
Well, they're not. I mean, they're not firing him anyway, or they're not.
I know, but like that's going to be like if he did, they would be.
And I would in a heartbeat. If it was up to me, I would strongly consider firing Aaron Glenn to hire Kevin Stefanski.
I would not. I would not.
I'm much higher on Stefanski, I think, than you are.
Meyer was fired by then. Darrell Bevel. Okay, that changes everything.
It was two interim head coaches, just Jets intern for a week because of the COVID stuff.
Justin, this was our final post-game stream of the season.
For a while.
It was a tough one. We're still going to have tons of Jet Press content for you in the offseason, but any final thoughts on what was – if you made it through this, you can make it through any season.
This was as miserable of a end to a Jet season as I can remember in recent memory. I wouldn't say in totality miserable because expectations, you could say 2023 and even 2024. It felt reminiscent of the Gase 2020 year, but a little bit different in the sense that everyone was kind of united in the tank. I feel like Jets fans were more angry this year. So this definitely ranks up there as far as least enjoyable Jets seasons that I've personally witnessed. So shout out to everyone who was able to stick around and watch these games. Shout out to everyone who tuned in to watch Samuel Womack play cornerback today for the Jets and Raheem Blackshear play running back and Trey Brown out there and whoever the hell else. Kingsley Johnson.
There was a tweet I saw where they said Aaron Glenn is 3D printing defensive backs on the sideline and giving them names.
Mike, in the future, when we're doing Guess the Jets, by the way, for long-time listeners, those are hopefully coming back.
Stay tuned.
We have some big plans for 2026, so we can't reveal all yet, but we want to bring back a lot of those shorts. But when we're doing future Guess the Jets, Mike, in like 3 years from now, and I put Kingsley Jonathan on there, I need you to get it, okay? I need you to get it when I put Colin Saunders.
I think when his parents were at filling in the birth certificate, they put the names in the wrong boxes.
Sure.
His real name is Jonathan Kingsley, but
if I show you a Jets Pro Football Reference page and it shows one game played in 2025 and it's Kingsley Jonathan,
There's so many guys.
It could be Samuel Womack. It could be Peyton Page. It could be whoever. It could be Quentin Skinner, right?
Kobe King.
But it's gonna be fun to look back. Maybe fun to look back on this season. Hopefully, when the Jets are a better football team than they are right now. But again, shout out to everyone who was able to tune into these games and tune into these live streams either during the week or after the games. They're always fun. We just sat here for an hour and 20 minutes talking about this stupid football team, but it was I had a blast. I genuinely had fun talking about this team with you guys, and there'll be more streams to come. We will be back on Wednesday. We're not going anywhere. We're still streaming live.
Oh no, we're not. We're taking all you guys down with us.
Yeah, we'll be streaming live. Maybe not, twice a week, although we'll see. We'll see how the schedule works out.
Tony Womack, didn't he play for the Diamondbacks? He was a second baseman for a long time.
Who was that corner out of Michigan State? That was Tony something. Tony Lippett. Remember
Tony the Tiger? I don't know.
No, Tony Lippett. You remember him?
Absolutely not.
Sometimes these names he was a Dolphin. I think he played receiver for them too. Sometimes these names just randomly come to mind. Remember the Isaac Nauta stuff? It's like that. Where it's like,
oh yeah. Okay.
How did I remember this player?
Okay, there are two images of him. They look like completely different people on Google Images.
He played corner at Michigan and was a returner. Michigan State, sorry. It was a returner in the NFL and then switched to wide receiver, if I remember correctly, briefly. Weird career arc. Anyway, not Tony Lippett, Samuel Womack. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff planned for the offseason, so please stay tuned. We are hoping that 2026 is a big year, not just for the Jet Press as a site, because we've been around for a while, and it's always fun writing content, but for the Jet Press YouTube channel and the Jet Press TikTok, you guys can follow us over there. Mike, until next time. Thank you all for joining us on the show today. You can follow Mike on Twitter @ByMikeandSean. Follow me on Twitter, Justin Fried. Follow Jet Press and Jet Press. Download the Jet Press podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. You guys know what to do. You can also become a member today. It is $1.49. Great way to help support the show. Thank you again to I'm forgetting who it was that donated the
Patrick Cahill.
Patrick Cahill, the super chat. Shout out Brett. I remembered that somehow, and I forgot it was Patrick Cahill. But shout out Brett one more time. Thank you all for watching. As always, we stream live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all for listening to Jet Press Podcast. I've been Justin Fried. That's Mike Luciano. We'll see you guys next time.
Can we not get any more 3 and 14 seasons for a while?
Let's hope.
That would be nice.